Hello and welcome at Nedap Security on Air. I think it's safe to say that we left the pandemic more or less behind us. Well, things are getting back to normal. All the rules are being eased all around the globe. Organizations have been experiencing, I think, the last 2 years that, well, they continued working, maybe even got more efficient while the workforce was forced to be at home. And that's basically also the topic of today is how, do we find a new balance, and how is hybrid working changing the way we work? And for that we have invited a series of guests from all over the globe, actually. I would like to start with Kati Barklund. She's in Sweden, so we have zoomed you in. Welcome, Kati. Kati is a senior manager at workplace strategy at Tenant and Partner, and she as well is the chairman of the IFMA, the International Facility Management Association in Sweden. Welcome, Kati.
Thank you.
Could you maybe tell us in 2 or 3 sentences what your daily work is?
Yeah, so what I do basically is help organizations to create performing workplaces. So a lot of advisory, helping them setting the strategy, what do we want to achieve and why, and then make it happen, and also help with the change management work.
Cool, nice, welcome. Then we have Kev Jones. He joined us also remotely from Rotterdam. Kev, you are the head of product Proxyclick at Condeco. Welcome. Could you just give us an example, or what do you do, of what is Proxyclick exactly?
Yeah, thanks, Frank. So Proxyclick's a leading visitor management system, so helping bring guests in and out of facilities. And since Proxyclick's acquisition at the beginning of the year by Condeco, which is a workplace management system, I lead the Proxyclick product. So as you can imagine, it's a very interesting time to work for such a company with the way that the world of work is these days. So thanks very much for having me.
Yeah, nice having you. And then last but not least, on the table, all the way from Denmark, we have Lars Kornbek, one of the Nedap partners for a long time, CEO of Vitani, of the Vitani Group. Lars, welcome, and can you please explain us what does Vitani do?
Yeah, thank you, Frank, and very nice to be here. Vitani consists of 3 companies. Our largest company is working with security, where we are the value-added reseller of the product AIRs from Nedap. Then we have a company doing building management systems within controlling, for instance, ventilation and heat and stuff like that in buildings. And then our third company is doing energy management and software development within that. So in case of workplace and running workplaces, then it's quite relevant for having 3 different business within the facility management part.
Yeah, well, I think the whole setup or the whole lineup with guests here is can tell us a lot about well, the experience that you have seen and noticed at your clients and various organizations. Kati, to start off with you, what can you tell us? What have you been experienced from your point of view, good or bad? basically?
What we have seen this is, well, of course, these changes, they have been coming for many years now, but it was not until the COVID pandemic really hit us when we could see the full range and contours of the changes and blurring the lines of the workplace as we knew it. And it has really extended the workplace both in space. So we are working from many different places today, but also in time. So not just the usual working hours that we had prior to COVID. And also we have been digitalizing the way we work and collaborate. And these changes, they were, of course, catalyzed by the pandemic, but even more enabled by technology. So without the technology, we could not have made this. And also, I truly believe that we would have come to this even without the pandemic. It would have just taken us longer time to get here. I also think that this is so important for us that we can, through this, unlock potential both in individuals, teams, and organizations, and really fit the experience and really give all the individuals and teams the toolboxes, the great experience that they need and want, and make them really, well, proactive and engaged and do, well, the best work that they could possibly do.
Okay, cool. Kev, how is that for you? What have you been experiencing?
Last 12 months has really seen quite a change from a focus on maybe enabling the individual within a workplace to looking at the ways in which those people can collaborate together. And that's come with the opening up of the loosening of restrictions that we've had. And there's many sort of ways that we've seen that organizations want to kind of approach that. And they kind of do that integrated to company values, I think. For the hybrid sort of workplace, technology is super important. We all know that, but it alone can't really deliver a sort of successful approach here. We see that the employee is more confident now in asking for flexibility and choice and certainty in where they come to the office. And many are asking their employees for more. And sometimes that's more than employers want to give. And so there's kind of a rebalancing of the relationship that has been occurring and that we see occurring. But there's no kind of one size fits all. Some organizations want or need more control than other. Some are happier to kind of let the employees organize themselves. So it's a really exciting time, especially when you combine this kind of emergence of technology to promote collaboration with some of the kind of changes to real estate footprint that we've seen within the organizations that are out there. So, there's much more room for flexibility and hybrid workforce growth here.
And you, as a technology company, have you been getting different questions as well from your clients?
Yeah, we're also really good at asking them questions to kind of work out what their priorities are. And I think we've seen an emergence from almost business continuity when that was the main focus when hybrid working was kind of thrust upon us. Following that, we saw a change in the way in which companies wanted to engage with their workforces to maybe focus more on the individual and to make sure that the individual is enabled. And there were stressful times for everybody depending on your situation, so the individual became the focus. And now we see that move on into collaboration. So the questions that we get for technology are really about what do you have in your toolkit that helps our employees come to the office at the right time for them, for us, to collaborate in the right way? How do we give them the spaces that they need to get the most out of their day, and how do we make sure that the balance fits everybody here?
Yeah. And Lars, you of course also have experience, and you talk a lot with big organizations.
Yeah.
From your point of view, what have you been experiencing or seeing?
We see we see a much higher demand in and also in a request from organizations. Before you were more pushing these messages out in the market. But as both Kevin and Kati says, we see much more requests coming in now from companies and organizations that they need to work much more with space utilization and stuff like that.
And how do you solve that?
Yeah, and that is one issue, because what we also see is that there's still a technology gap, because when you have to have these different domains within facility management talk together, then not all systems are able to do that. It's not just a matter of putting up some IoT sensors and then that will solve everything. You need to, maybe the security system need to give some data to the building management system and to the you know when to increase and decrease the energy consumption and stuff like that. So you need some systems that are able to handle all these data. And then there are not really things out in the market that can do that just as a off-the-shelf solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you need extra flexibility in this.
You need extra flexibility. You need open systems that are able to use data across.
Yeah. I guess that many organizations at this point in time are rethinking how to use their facilities and create a kind of hybrid working. Kati, for you, what has surprised you the most the last 2 years that the role of technology played in this whole pandemic, in this whole new way of working?
Well, technology has really been crucial, but I'm not sure if it has surprised me. But the technology, it's not the solution in itself, but it's really enabling and enhancing the great experience and the whole development here, both for employees, but also visitors coming to our offices and making us and our workplaces and facilities more attractive, productive, efficient, sustainable, and of course also secure.
Yeah, and I think one more thing. Just the fact that you are there and still in Sweden, and that we are here in the studio in the Netherlands, I guess that also helps us to address the whole sustainability question.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's so important that we are really focusing on aligning our workplaces both with human, economic, and environmental sustainability, and do it in every possible way so that it is good for both people, our organization, but also our planet in the long run. And there are many ways we can do it.
Yeah. Kev, any surprises for you?
I guess for me, it's been really interesting and a little bit surprising to see I think as Kay alluded to, the lines between the visitor and the employee become blurred over the last 12 months, even longer. The tools that were traditionally there for an organization to welcome, sometimes screen, process visitors coming into their building are very similar techniques are now being used to kind of manage the presence of employees going to a workplace in a situation that was traditionally 7 days a week or 5 days a week. Yeah. And on the other side of the coin as well, I think we also see the visitor being opened up into the world of the employee more when they do go to the office. There's a lot of interest in allowing visitors access to resources that are traditionally the realm of the employees, such as being involved in meeting room bookings and desk bookings. So these kind of assets that typically were reserved for the employee and the visitor would only access with the employee are now being made available to the visitor directly.
So we're really becoming guests in our own offices.
Yeah. I think a lot of that process, it's inevitable, really. If the workforce remains largely the same, and you decide to streamline the amount of real estate that you offer that workforce, you need to manage the entry and into that space in a more effective way. And as Lars was touching upon as well, the role of access, I've also seen a sort of subtle shift to in how access control is used in these scenarios, from access being something that was 24/7 almost for certain people, to being something that is restricted, often in line with the booking, often in line with these visitor style features that enable something to be planned and booked into the workplace. And on the other side of that as well, the role of access is to inform the facility or inform the workplace, using the array of data that system has to really let a workplace know the usage of certain areas within the building, the busyness of certain rooms or locations, and allow them to make effective decisions about how they want to organize that space.
Okay. And Lars, surprises for you from your side?
Yeah, I think some of the things that Kev says as well, that the access control is being used differently, or the organization realize that they have other needs regarding the access control system as well. As for one example is that normally you use your access control system to prevent external people to come into your facility or location. And now suddenly you need to prevent your own employees as well to come into the facility during the pandemics, because you need to protect, for instance, a production area that only certain people now are getting access to. So the access control system needs to be able to handle this very quickly. And a lot of companies didn't have that set up before the pandemics, because normally you just have your employees that had access to majority of the doors, and then you have a few critical areas where you could go into, for instance, a server room and stuff like that.
I'm not sure if you can name names, probably not, but do you have an example really of the field, how a client did this or solved this?
No, because they were actually not able to solve it. That was what they realized, that with the setup they had, for instance, with the rule for access, they were not able to do this very quick change in who had access and not access. Wow. And that resulted in some requests to us, for instance, that the system was able to, in an intelligent way, to see who are the frequent users of a certain area. And then if you have to do a quick shutdown, then the system by itself would still give access to the frequent users, but the users who haven't been using this area or the doors into these areas for maybe months, they were automatically shut down.
Blocked.
Yeah. And then a lot of customers use the functionality that you automatically get your card blocked if you haven't used it for a month or two. That's difficult when you suddenly work home for a month or two.
Yeah.
Because then suddenly you could risk that no one could get access to the workplace.
Yeah.
So another request is that people should be able to reactivate their cards from home via a web portal or whatever. So organizations have realized that they need to use the access control differently than they did before, being able to do these shutdowns.
Yeah. And Kati, back to you. Do you feel confident that the organizations, in the way that they're currently set up, are ready to welcome back their workforce or their colleagues and to the workplace and keep them happy and healthy?
I think that everyone more or less believes that they are ready, but in many cases I think that the workplaces are not that ready as they could and should. I think that the workplaces, the offices need to act as magnets so that people really want to go there. So make them attractive and tailored to all the needs of the people and operations, full of life, connection, collaboration. I've also seen some organizations that in the organizations, they are really afraid that the employees don't want to come back to the offices anymore. So they, in different ways, start to, control and try to control presence in different ways instead of trusting the employees and giving them flexibility and choice. And I think that it's very important now that, we really keep people with the autonomy that we have had and got during the pandemic. I think that is very important. It's like we are like birds in a cage, and during the pandemic we have got out of that cage and have been able to explore. And before the pandemic, in that cage, we were singing and we were happy, but after that, when we had the possibility to actually fly and work from different places, we are not happy to be caged anymore in that cage. We want to choose. Sometimes we go to that cage, and it's, of course, workplace is not a cage, but just to try to visualize it. So we need to remain and keep that choice to people to choose what works best for them, but also at the same time, educate and our people in balancing individual team and organizational needs, so that I'm not just thinking about myself, I'm also thinking about the team and the organizations and other people dependent on me and that I can also learn from.
And do you maybe have an example of from the field of an organization that is doing or taking the right steps to create this environment where they attract their colleagues back, basically?
I think most of the organizations that I'm working with really are doing it in that direction. And of course, there are sometimes some of the managers very afraid of that. So it's also to just trust the people, trust the process, and also make sure that we try to not start with controlling, try to give them the freedom, and then we can go in and monitor and adapt and adjust if it's needed. And in almost every case, you actually don't have to go in and control your people. You have employed a lot of great people, and they want to do their best work for the company.
Yeah, well, that's positive, of course. And Kev, from your point of view, are the organizations ready again?
Yeah, I'm going to echo a lot of what Kati said there. I think the organizations are generally ready in practice, but there's still a lot to learn, I think, for them. And work at the moment ranges from, fully remote to those jobs that you can't operate remotely. And the space in the middle, this hybrid place is where a large number of companies find themselves. And it's still uncharted waters, I think, for a lot of people trying to get that right balance. As Kati alluded to, I think the best results come from consultation, listening and discussing, communicating with employees, rather than sort of applying fixed schedules of when people should go back to the office and being told when they need to. That certainly seems to bring, I think, the best level of trust between an organization and its workforce. And that's something that's maybe taking a little bit getting used to for some organizations, that kind of shift in the dynamic there. It's it's a journey, essentially. And I think many organizations acknowledge that. Policies are going to need to be adapted. Spaces are going to need to be changed, and new technologies are going to need to be able to be brought in to help manage that change. And as we sort of touched upon before, technology can't be the solution to this. You can't be ready as an organization to bring your workforce back and look at technology to provide the answer to the problem of how best to do that. That also needs to be driven by the organization and using that technology in the most appropriate way.
Yeah. And Lars, last but not least, you're an employer yourself.
Yeah, not for a big organization though. So we have other items to handle. But I think from a security point of view, it's really an act of balance, because the company's organizations want to welcome their employees with open arms, and also they have realized, as I said, during the pandemic, that they need to have much more security measurement, because they need to be able to handle the security differently, to be able to shut down again in case of that.
If needed, yeah.
So it's two opposite things. You want to have open arms and welcome everyone, and then you also need to put more strict rules when it comes to security. So that will be a balance for a lot of organizations. But I'm sure we will see a much higher investment in security the coming years to be able to do this handling of maybe a new pandemic. And also what we see, I'm sure, is that a lot of companies will decrease or try to decrease their square meters, because they see that a lot of people can work as efficient from home, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
So why spend money on expensive square meters if you can have less or none, maybe?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things that the organizations still need to learn, and as Kev said, it's a journey, and we'll see how it will go.
Yeah. And I think that also brings us to the end, and I think that's probably the main conclusion that we can draw. It's a continuous journey that we are in, and probably for the coming years. So you're more than welcome in a couple of years to reflect on what has happened.
Yeah.
I would like to thank all of you for your interesting insights. And if you have questions, then please reach out to us via the website. We can bring you in touch with one of our panelists here, and I would like to thank you very much, and see you next time.